Jerusalem Bible. John chapter 11.
There was a man named Lazarus of Bethany,
The village of Mary and her sister Martha, and he was ill. It was the same Mary,
the sister of the sick man Lazarus, who anointed the Lord with ointment
and wiped his feet with her hair.
The sister sent this message to Jesus: Lord, the man you love is ill.
On receiving the message, Jesus said,
This sickness will not end in death,
but it is for God's glory, so that through it the Son of God may be glorified.
Jesus loved Martha and her sister,
And Lazarus. Yet when he heard that he was ill,
he stayed where he was for 2 more days.
before saying to the disciples,
Let us go back to Judea. The disciples said, Rabbi, it is not long since the Jews were trying to stone you.
Are you going back there again?
Jesus replied, Are there not 12 hours in the day? No one who walks in the daytime stumbles,
having the light of this world to see by. Anyone who walks around at night stumbles, having no light as a guide. He said that, and then added,
Our friend Lazarus is at rest.
I am going to wake him.
The disciples said to him,
Lord, if he is at rest,
He will be saved. Jesus was speaking of the death of Lazarus,
but they thought that by rest
he meant sleep. So Jesus put it plainly,
Lazarus is dead,
and for your sake I am glad I was not there,
because now you will believe.
but let us go to him. Then Thomas, known as the twin,
said to the other disciples, Let us also go to die with him. On arriving,
Jesus found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days already. Bethany is only about 2 miles from Jerusalem.
and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary
to comfort them about their brother.
When Martha heard that Jesus was coming,
she went to meet him.
Mary remained sitting in the house. Martha said to Jesus,
Lord, if you had been here,
My brother would not have died.
but even now I know that God will grant whatever you ask of him.
Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said,
I know you will rise again,
At the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said, I am the resurrection.
Anyone who believes in me,
Even though that person dies, will live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she said,
I believe that you are the Christ,
the Son of God.
the one who was to come into this world. When she had said this,
she went and called her sister Mary,
saying in a low voice,
the Master is here and wants to see you.
Hearing this,
Mary got up quickly and went to him.
Jesus had not yet come into the village. He was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were in the house comforting Mary saw her get up so quickly and go out, they followed her.
thinking that she was going to the tomb to weep.
Then Mary went to Jesus, and as soon as she saw him, she threw herself at his feet, saying, Lord,
If you had been here, my brother would not have died.
at the sight of her tears,
And those of the Jews who had come with her, Jesus was greatly distressed.
And with a profound sight, he said,
Where have you put him?
they said, Lord,
Come and see. Jesus wept, and the Jews said,
See how much he loved him.
But there were some who remarked, He opened the eyes of the blind man.
could he not have prevented this man's death?
Saying again, Jesus reached the tomb. It was a cave with a stone to close the opening. Jesus said, Take the stone away.
Martha, the dead man's sister,
Said to him, Lord, by now you will smell. This is the 4th day since he died. Jesus replied, Have I not told you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?
So they took the stone away. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes,
And said, Father,
I thank you for hearing my prayer. I myself knew that you hear me always.
but I speak for the sake of all these,
who are standing around me,
so that they may believe it was you sent me. When he had said this,
He cried in a loud voice,
Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his feet and hands bound,
with strips of material and a cloth over his face. Jesus said to them, Unbind him.
Let him go free.
Many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what he did
Believed in him.
but some of them went to the Pharisees to tell them what Jesus had done.
Then the chief priests and Pharisees called a meeting. Here is this man working all these signs. They said, And what action are we taking?
If we let him go on in this way,
Everybody will believe in him, and the Romans will come and suppress the holy place in our nation. One of them
Caiaphas, the high priest that year,
said, You do not seem to have grasped the situation at all.
You fail to see that it is to your advantage that one man should die for the people.
Rather than that the whole nation should perish.
he did not speak in his own person.
But as high priest of that year,
He was prophesying that Jesus was to die for the nation. And not for the nation only,
but also to gather together into one
the scattered children of God. From that day onwards, they were determined to kill him. So Jesus no longer went about openly among the Jews,
but left the district for a town called Ephraim, in the country bordering on the desert,
and stayed there with his disciples. The Jewish Passover was drawing near.
and many of the country people who had gone up to Jerusalem before the Passover
To purify themselves,
were looking out for Jesus, saying to one another as they stood about in the temple,
"What do you think?
Will he come to the festival or not? The chief priests and Pharisees had by now given their orders. Anyone who knew where he was must inform
So that they could arrest him.